Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my dear learners. I am Dr. Muhammad Tanveer from Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, Jamia Millia Islamia. For this session, our topic is issues of diversities, differences and discrimination. Let's start this topic. I would like to first discuss about the diversity in India. India, which is one nation but a plural society. Its plurality is inbuilt in its geographical, demographic, historical, political, economic and socio-cultural basis. Its social diversity has been expressed in the various forms such as language, religions, tribe, caste, etc. etc. While social diversity is a historical fact, a synthesis has also been taking place alongside. With respect to our social diversity, it goes without saying that Indian society is characterized by unity in diversity. We know that within the overall national Indian identity, various local and regional identities are surviving. An individual passes through the arena of national and regional identities in one's day-to-day life on a regular basis. Too much emphasis actually on regional identity, on linguistic identity or on religious identity can damage the national fabric and lead to the path of confrontation. While on the other hand, laying excessive stress on national identity only may lead to the monolithic nation state and destroy the cultural heritage of the regional and or the subnational identities. So, the purpose of my introduction was to introduce you that we are a one nation, but we are very much diverse on each and every respect. Now, the second question which arises that why are we discussing this diversity in this class of education? Why should we discuss diversity in education? Education plays a central role in conserving, modifying and transforming identities, keeping in mind the heterogeneous characteristics of Indian society. The National Policy of Education in 1986 envisages harmonious development of all groups, that is, promoting the national identity as well as promoting the development and maintaining group identities in an integrated manner. The balancing act of education is well reflected in the constitutional provision. Education, being classified under the concurrent list of constitution, has the scope for promotion of both national and subnational identities. On the one hand, while the Constitution of India talks of the fundamental duties to be ordained in all type of education in the country, on the other hand, under directive principles of state policy, it directs the state to protect and promote economic and educational interests of the weaker sections of the society. It also promotes the education of religious and linguistic minority groups. In this lesson, we will be discussing on social diversity in the Indian context, the various groups and what is the educational implication of this social diversity. I will talk about the roles which education can play in providing equal opportunity to these groups and harmonious development among them. In this lesson, I have heavily relied on the course material from IGNOU as I found it one among the best suited for this topic. I have also consulted to a few relevant research papers which are cited in the reference section of this lesson. We may also go through those papers to get in-depth insight about the topic. The learning outcome of this session would be that when you will be completed with this tutorial, with this video lesson, you should be able to appreciate the complex nature of social diversity in India. You should develop an understanding of the educational problems faced by different groups. You should be able to explain the role of education in providing equal opportunity for the development in establishing harmony among them, and you should be able to describe the teacher's role in meeting the educational, social and psychological need of your students coming from the various groups from your society. Let's start it with social diversity. By social diversity, what do we mean by it? By social diversity, we mean the coexistence of different social groups within a given geopolitical setting, or in simpler term we can say that differentiation of the society into group is social diversity. Other terms like plurality, multiculturalism, social differentiation, etc., etc. are also interchangeably used to explain this feature of the society. There is one more term related to the diversity, and that we call it individual differences. We know that apart from the social groups, each of us is different from each other in almost every aspect. We differ in intelligence, we differ in personality traits and values, along with many other psychological, social as well as physical characteristics. Some of these differences play roles in education. So all those differences which play a role in education, we will be discussing it in future lessons. In this lesson, let's discuss about the social diversity and how it affects the educational processes. Let's start. I am starting it with social cultural diversity. What is social cultural diversity? Social cultural diversity includes the various social structures, belief systems, rituals, ways of living, and strategies the culture adhere to for adapting to life situations in various parts of the world. In fact, every region within a state of India has its own identity owing to the rich cultural heritage quite different from the neighboring region and of course the other states of the country. The types of festivals, the way of celebration of these festivals, even if some are same across the state, and the religious rituals contribute to the unique identity of each of the region. It is this richness and uniqueness of the cultural heritage of different regions of each state that contribute to our cultural diversity. We are culturally very rich country. The other factor which now let's say about the other criteria of our social diversity, which is very important, and it is no other than religion. We know that religion is an important binding force of social integration among individuals and groups. By religion, we generally mean belief in supernatural being or entities. Religion has been playing an important role in Indian society from the very evolution of human society. The 2011 Census of India listed 7 religious categories, which are Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jains, Buddhists, Sikhs, and other category which are categorized as other religions, which include Jews, Zoroastrians, and tribals, which find mention in 1931 census also. Religion is a complex phenomenon in India. Conservatives and progressive elements are found among different groups, highlighting intra-religious differentiations also in every religion. The Constitution of India, considering the country as a secular, has treated all religious groups on equal terms. It has made provision for freedom to all religious groups to hold and practice their belief and rituals. Secularism has been ingrained in the national policies and planning of education and development. Now, the other criteria of our social diversity is caste, which is unique in India. Caste system is a system of social relations. It is an important feature of Indian society based on endogamy, hierarchy, occupational association, purity and pollution, and inscriptive status. Although caste seeks ideological roots in the Varna scheme of Hinduism, it is an all-pervasive and very complex phenomena which hold its way till today. It has provided internal structure and social base to Indian society, sometimes cutting across religious barriers. It is one of the unique features of Indian society. The tribal people themselves are a highly diversified group. The degree of tribalism varies from extremely primitive isolated tribal group located in Andaman and Nicobar Island to the modern developed tribal groups such as Meenas in Rajasthan. So, it is a very diverse group. The tribes, being a local community, perceive their identity largely at the regional and local level than at the national level. The problem faced by the tribal groups vary from region to region, state to state, and from one tribal group to another tribal group. So, there is nothing like one fit for all. Historical, political, and economic reasons for their educational backgrounds are very much different from the reasons which are responsible for the backwardness of SCs, that is scheduled castes. So, their reasons are very much different from that. We will discuss those in next video, and also we will discuss or we will see how to tackle those problems, how to take care of those children coming from those society, from those tribal groups. Now, the next criteria of diversification of our society is linguistic diversity. Language. The criteria is the language. Let's see what linguistic diversity is. We know that language is one of the main marker of the group solidarity in any society. When we go outside or when we go abroad and whenever we see that someone is speaking the same language as I am speaking, they automatically develop some relation or some bond between the two. So, language is a very cohesive force among people. The social categorization in terms of language is much stronger than any other social marker such as religion, class, caste, tribe, etc., etc. You may have seen that this cohesion is very, very strong. Group identities are expressed in a stronger term when language identities are combined with the other type. Like you have seen that there are language belts in our country. Group identities actually play a major role. Not only the group identity, but those groups formed due to the language play a very major role in social diversification of our society. India is highly diversified in terms of language. Despite language-based reorganization of our states, India's states, India has not been able to solve many language-related problems. Under the state reorganization, only a few major languages have been given official recognition and resource supports are available on those languages. but there are many other languages with which we don't have resources available. There are issues that need to be looked into, like language nationalism operate at the regional level rather than at the national level. The three language formula devised for imparting education at different level is still not fully implemented in our country, although a lot of effort has been made to implement it or to make something better from it. Also, the state have not devised their policy for protecting the educational, cultural, economic interest of the language minority groups who inadvertently have fallen in particular state territory. Educational implications of language diversification have not been worked out and incorporated into the education system. The Indian Constitution lists, we know, the Indian Constitution lists about 18 languages as official languages of the unions of states, of the union and the states, in addition to the Hindi and English, which enjoy the status of a national language and linked languages also, and linked language also. All major languages have regional and dialectical variations. Beside these, there are 227 languages and dialect which have also been recognized as mother tongues, making the task of language planning and promotion very, very difficult. Furthermore, diversification of the tribal groups in terms of language make the situation much more complicated. We know that there are many tribal groups, and all these tribal groups have their own dialect, have their own sometimes language also. Now, let's come to our next criteria of the social diversification, which is economic diversity. In India, we are diverse in terms of economics also. Economic diversity actually refers to the great variations found in economic status of people in our country, in any country. Here I am talking about India. Over 65% of people in India are suffering from extreme poverty who do not even get 2 square meals a day. There are middle classes who work hard and save money for the future generation. And we have seen, or we see that a very new economic class has evolved who work in multinational companies and earn huge income. We can also find wealthy and rich people who have traditionally owned industries and land. Finally, there come people who are counted under the top 10 richest person in the world. So we see that in India, we have people who cannot afford the 2 square meal in a day, and also we have people who are counted in the topmost or the top richest person of the world. This much is the economic diversity in our country. And we also know that a large portion of our resources are actually owned by a very few people of the country. In terms of education, when we talk about the economic diversity in terms of education, see, the people who are in lower strata of the society, they try to get education, but their challenges are actually food. Their challenges are nutrition. That's why states has also given a lot of programs like midday meal, etc., to as a bait for, so that they could come to the school. They have the nutrition, food, and health. These are their more pressing needs when we talk about the lower class or in terms of economic. So when we talk about the top elite class, also education has, the national education system has a very little to concern with for them. Actually, the middle class are the main stakeholders of education in our country. It is the person from middle class which benefit most from education. Their earning, their livelihood, status of living depends on the education they acquire or the education they get. Middle class are main stakeholders of education. The varied levels of social classes and the gap between these have been increasingly contributing to diversity in our society. From the time the caste system got rooted in our society and education got monopolized by the upper caste people who knew Sanskrit at that time. So the seed of class differences also got sown in our soul, in our soil when the caste differences were made. Thus, the money power related to caste and class gave rise to the economic differences and added yet another dimension and another complexity to our diversity. Now, let's discuss gender as a criteria of our social diversity. We know that gender is a social construct, whereas sex of a person is a biological status. Gender diversity refers to the difference in the societal outlook to the person around vis-a-vis their sex. So, to be born a man or a woman in any society is more than simple biological fact. It's more than simple biology that a person is born a male or a female, but when he or she become boy or girl or a man and women, second thing involved, that is gender. So from male and female, being a boy or girl or a man or woman is a biological fact which has social indications. Women constitute a distinct social group, and their biological fact of being women is culturally redefined, presented and valued into different ways. In reality, it is quite difficult to establish what is natural and what is socially constructed, because as soon as the child is born, family and society begin the process of gendering. Proof of the fact that gender is a cultural and social attribute rather than a natural one is that it keeps changing over time. In different place and among different social groups, it changes. For example, a middle class girl from an Indian, North Indian or from an Indian society may be confined to the home or a school, while a tribal girl may roam around in the jungles freely, taking the animal for grazing, climbing trees for fruits, leaves, branches and all those. They are both girls, but they develop very different capabilities, aspirations and dreams. This is because of the different gendering they are they came into. Next is the diversity because of ability or disability. Diversity in any social group has yet another dimension of disability and capabilities actually. Disability is a diversity classification that transcends all other indices like class, caste, race, religion and language, etc. etc. It represents the only minority group that anyone can become a member at any time in life. So anyone can suffer with this problem. The term differently abled was actually first proposed in 1980s as an alternative to disabled or handicapped, etc., on the ground that it gave a more positive message and so avoided discrimination toward the people with disabilities. The term has gained a little currency. Now, recently a new term Divyang was given for this. Right of person with disabilities, that is RPWD 2016, which has actually replaced the existing PWD Act of 1995, has now included about 21 disabilities. Yes, 21 disabilities. They are, as I could remember, they are blindness, low vision, leprosy cured, hearing impaired or hearing impairment, auditory impairment locomotor disability, dwarfism, intellectual disability, mental illness, autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, chronic neurological condition, specific learning disabilities, multiple sclerosis, speech and language disability, thalassemia, hemophilia, sickle cell disease. Multiple disabilities including deaf and blindness, acid attack victims, and Parkinson's disease. So, this act is very much comprehensive and has included more number of category in this group. Actually, in this act, disability has been defined based on evolving and dynamic concept, which was the need. So, now disability, let's talk about it. So, we know that disability is an inescapable element of human experience. It is so first in the sense that worldwide an enormous number of people have disabilities. Furthermore, we can say that disability is arguably more heterogeneous than those of race, gender, class, and sexual orientation, as it may affect one's sense and one's mobility. They may be static, it may be progressive, it may be congenital, or it may be acquired. It may be related to our body, affecting the shape of the body, or it may be related to, or it may affect the functionality of our body. It may be visible, or it may be even invisible to others. For people with a disability, and other attributes that make them distinct from the mainstream disability become their master label, their primary identifying characteristics, overlooking the other characteristics or other identifier of the person. Disability is actually more fundamental form of diversity than differences in race, religion, ethnicity, etc. Differently abled children account for at least not less than 7% of India's population, which is ever growing because we are adding more and more categories, and also a lot more type of disability were not defined or identified to include in the group. Now we are in process of adding, like the act in 2016 has done it. So the percentage may increase a lot. We can say safely that disability, that differently abled children account for not less than 7% of India's population in the age group of 6 to 14 only, that is in school years. But they make up very less, maybe less than 1% of the workforce. This large variance in the space of few years can be explained by the disadvantages and discrimination which the differently abled face at every step of their life. Now, we have enough discussed about the various criteria on the basis of which our society is diverse. But the thing is, what are the implications of this social diversity for education? That will give, in the beginning of this lesson, we have discussed that why this discussion was necessary at all. Now let's discuss about the implication of the social diversity of in education or for education. The major implication of social diversity for the education system are bringing the diverse group at par, as the groups are at different level of educational and economic development. One basic objective of the education system is to accommodate diversities that exist in the population. However, assessment of educational development indicates that although substantial progress has been made in the field of education during the last 5 decades, gaps continues to exist between regions, states in terms of gender and social groupings. Despite the constitutional promises of equality of independent India, the hierarchies in terms of educational access, participation and achievement are getting reinforced between the advantaged and disadvantaged groups. The tribes, Dalits, tribes I mean scheduled tribes, Dalits, that are the scheduled castes, minorities and girls, continue to be deprived and further marginalized. This is the truth of the society. Now, what are the implications of this social diversity in our classroom? How, as a teacher, I am affected, or I am affected by this social diversity. We know that classroom is a cross section of society where the diversity existing among people in the community is reflected. The increasing number of learners from diverse backgrounds admitted to elementary classrooms has reinforced the importance of making a school more inclusive. With relatively much higher variations in the talent and social, cultural, economic and political background of the learner, a teacher is expected to transfer the understanding and position about diversity into the classroom process, identify and recognize the thread of diversity among learners in order to address the corresponding issues and challenges with respect to curriculum design, with respect to teaching learning practices and processes and learning materials, so that subsequently the different learning needs of the children are met. Despite the managerial problem which exists, and it exists everywhere, that can occur when a teacher lacks the competence to handle diversity in the classroom, literature on the classroom management has paid very little attention to issues of diversity and presented classroom management as if it were socio-culturally neutral process. No, it is never a neutral process. Teachers who are aware of the diversities also reflect on their biases and values and on how they influence their behavior and interactions in the classroom. They also recognize that the goal of classroom management that take into account diversities is to provide all students with equitable opportunities for learning. The main component of the classroom environment is caring, respectful, and that support the learning and disciplines. Let's discuss some of those components. Number one is recognize your own biases as teacher. An understanding of one's own motives, beliefs, values, assumptions which are implicit and unexamined, and bringing them to a conscious level is important. This can help us as teachers in understanding the diversity in classroom and treating the students equitably. Number two is knowledge of students' socio-cultural background. That is very, very necessary. Teacher need to understand the cultural heritage, norms, value orientation, social taboos, relational patterns of different groups in order to develop skills for classroom interactions. Number three is awareness of the broader social, economic and political context. It is important for teacher to understand that. Usually, schools are a mirror of larger society and reflect and perpetuate discriminatory practices as these exist in the society. Differences in social class, gender, language background, etc. are linked to the power, and these get institutionalized in the practice of school. Teachers need to re-examine the ways that reinforce discrimination, because students are motivated when they believe that teachers teach them with respect and care. The number four is creating caring and nurturing relationship with students which are based on cooperation, collaboration and reciprocity other than the teacher controlling students' model. A researcher in 2000 named Gay, who wrote that caring is a foundational pillar of effective teaching and learning, and the lack of caring produces inequities in educational opportunity and achievement outcomes for students from socially diverse backgrounds. Actually, inclusive education means very much beyond just enrollment of the students from diverse socio-cultural background or the enrollment of only children with disabilities. It's about feeling among all learners of an equal sense of belonging to their school, irrespective of their backgrounds, obviously. Inclusive classroom And schools in this sense would mean a place where diversity among learners is appreciated and considered a learning resource rather than a problem, where children from diverse backgrounds are valued for what they are and are made to feel safe enough to express whatever they know without fearing of discrimination, and where the curriculum, teaching learning method and materials are culturally responsive to the needs of the different learning need and interest of children from diverse background. Now it is the time to summarize the lesson. In this lesson, we discussed that India is a land of diversity, and its diversity is expressed in terms of language, religion, caste, tribes, genders, and many more. So, the diversity is a result of both internal differentiation and external influence. The process of differentiation and unification have been going on simultaneously in our society, and the group that have been differentiated on one social marker may be seen united on another. For instance, the group which are divided on religious line, such as Hindus, the Muslims, etc., etc., are united in terms of language, gender, etc., etc. Thus, unity amidst diversity prevails in the Indian society, and that's why our incredible India is also kind of land of diversity with unity and unity with diversity. However, the balance between diversity and unity is a delicate one and fraught with several problems. One needs to analyze the proper relation between the diverse groups. The major implication of social diversity for the educational system are to bring the diverse group at par, as the groups are at different level of educational and economic development. One basic objective of the education system is to accommodate diversities that exist in the population. We learn about the diversities on the basis of caste, that is socio-cultural diversity, which is on the basis of religion, on the basis of caste, on the basis of tribal groups, etc., etc. We also discussed about the linguistic diversity, which is on the basis of language, mother tongue. We discussed about economic diversities also, and diversity due to gender and due to special abilities and disabilities which an individual may have. So, and constitute a group. So, in the next slide, a few questions are given to ponder about, to think critical for the critical thinking and exercise. Try to do it at your own pace. And in the next slide, you will see some of the resources and references. So, with this note, let's conclude this session. Thank you for being the part of this session. Thank you.